Hello, True Blood fans. This is Shanea O'Connor from TrueBloodFansource.com, and I am here once again to talk about this week's episode. In this case, it was episode 502 of True Blood Season 5, Authority Always Wins. So let's jump right into the discussion of the episode. The episode opens with where we left off, where Sookie is being attacked by Tara, the newly risen vampire. And here we see that, Pam doesn't do anything about it. I thought it was kind of funny that Sookie was calling for Lafayette to stop Tara, as if that would do anything, because she's now a vampire. So the only one who can stop her is Pam. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And Pam, of course, was her usual self. Lafayette's like, do something, and she's like, I'm laughing. Because clearly, like I said in last week's video, I said, Pam doesn't quite realize what it means to have taken on Tara, really. But neither do Lafayette and Sookie, clearly. Because, she's a vampire now, and she really wasn't verbally responsive. Which, as a side note, the reason for that is because the injury she had was so severe, it took a lot of time for her brain to heal. So that's why for that first night, she was all just destroying things and not talking and looking at Sookie and Lafayette like she was an animal. That was not in the show, by the way. That was on HBO Go in the interactive features. But I thought it was worth mentioning because I didn't catch that. I had to wait until the second time around. So, clearly, Pam is so not into the mom thing whatsoever. She basically commands Tara to stay in the house and not bite Sookie or Lafayette. But that sort of just doesn't work. And I know it's partly because Pam is I did my duty and I'm on my way, I'm leaving. But, Tara is clearly going to need Pam. Really and truly, because not only has she run away by the end of the episode, but she just really needs somebody who's a vampire. I think that's the whole overarching message from that segment of the episode, is that Tara is now a vampire. She won't forgive Sookie and Lafayette for doing that to her, and Sookie and Lafayette have regrets about it. But what is done is done. And then, sorry, that's my tweet deck. And, they have to deal with it. So everybody has to deal with it. And, it's not going to be good. But yeah, Tara needs Pam in the worst way. Not just because, she's learned how not to bite people, but just so that she has someone who understands her urges and her desires as a brand new vampire, and who will keep her safe from harming herself or from harming others. So that was an interesting storyline. It was sad, though, because you see that shift in Lafayette's relationship with Tara as well as Sookie's, and they kind of don't know what to do. And I don't know what's going to happen next episode, because clearly Sookie's going to go and tell Pam that Tara went missing, and they're going to get into a fight. That much is clear because we saw it in one of the trailers that HBO released prior to the new season. So it should be interesting, nevertheless. The next person we want to talk about, of course, is Pam, because after she leaves, She goes back to Fantasia where Ginger says, why are you so dirty? And something like that. She's still in the ugly sweatsuit. And so we flash back. We get the first flashback, which I have been waiting a year to see. I was at Paley Fest 2011 when True Blood went, and I was there when Alan Ball said, we'll give you flashbacks next season. So, I've been waiting and eagerly anticipating this moment, and I wasn't disappointed. I was really intrigued to see the kind of person Pam was before she was turned. I mean, she's clearly the same tough Pam, taking no guff. She's also a drug dealer. I mean, she was giving what I presume to be opium of some sort to one of her working girls via a ring. And they were in 1905 San Francisco. San Francisco happens to be my hometown, so I thought that the crab that Kristen was eating as Pam was a great touch. Although I will say it does not get that so foggy in San Francisco that it goes so low to the ground that you can barely see someone behind you or in front of you. That was a little bit of artistic license. But we see that Pam, is a tough broad, obviously, and that, there's been a string of killing. She walked in and one of her prostitutes was dead. She knew, obviously, from a vampire. So I'm glad that they kind of set that up sort of as just a fact, that she's sort of aware that a vampire or something, was killing women. So when she meets Eric, which has to be one of the cutest scenes ever, even though there's a freaking dead body between them, it was a great scene, where Eric basically decapitated the guy and apologized for getting blood on Pam's dress. FYI, another HBO Go factoid. Pam got into prostitution because she was from an upper crust English family who caught her with another woman, and they sent her away to live with relatives in California. And once she got there were no relatives. She was basically stranded. So they sent her packing. So she got into prostitution. So, again, that wasn't in the show, but I think it's worth mentioning because it's an integral part of Pam's history, and it makes the little conversation between Pam and Eric where you can feel sort of this chemistry budding between them all that more important, because Eric obviously had to be some kind of someone for Pam to have a relationship sexually for however long it went on. We know it went on for some time, but he had to be someone really special to her to make her want to switch teams if she was obviously already exploring her lesbian tendencies, whatever you'd like to call it. I mean, she was already gay, basically. It wasn't an acquired... I mean, I always assumed that she had acquired it after years of being a vampire and decided to go explore women, but no. This was already something set for her. So that was really interesting. The costumes were really awesome as well. Audrey Fisher, the costume designer, actually tweeted me, or tweeted the site, I should say, and a couple of other True Blood sites, and she actually gave us a link to a painting that helped inspire the outfit. So if you go onto our Twitter page, it should be there. You can click on the link and see it's pretty. So Jason, he's still sort of bumbling around. He and Jessica are not together, obviously, but the part where he congratulates Andy for having sex is hilarious, and especially because he's like, I've had sex before. I mean, come on. But the fact that he's still, even after last week's episode where he was good to the college girl in the car, you can clearly see that the old Jason is still there, because of the boy that comes into the police station later on in the episode and basically says, you slept with my mom, even though he doesn't know her name. He has to be shown it on the phone and then almost beat to death by this little boy, had it not been for Andy. But an important thing of note, Andy and Jason found Debbie's car, dun dun dun, which is bad because we're going to see, something happen because Debbie's obviously dead. The next thing that I want to discuss is, of course, Alcide and Sam and Luna. Alcide didn't want any part of feeding on Marcus, which I'm so glad of. I don't understand why they had to show that again. I mean, last week, the first time they did it, that was enough for me, but of course they had to go for the gore again. I'm glad that Alcide didn't partake, obviously, but I also just found it really interesting that he didn't want to be a part of the pack or be a pack master or anything like that. It's very different from the way that I perceived Alcide to be portrayed in the books, because he does become pack master eventually, and he does take that on. He's a very much pack mentality type guy. So that was interesting. Sam and Luna thankfully made it out of there alive. But I couldn't believe Martha came over after threatening Luna and Emma and was like, can I see my granddaughter? It's like, lady, you just threatened your granddaughter and her mother, and you had like no qualms. None whatsoever. I mean, that's like your family. You had no problem. You shouldn't see her right now. I totally wholeheartedly agree with Luna on that front. But of course now her daughter, she learns, is a werewolf because there was a cute little wolf puppy in a nightgown, which was cute and funny no matter which way you slice it. So she's going to have to deal with Martha, and perhaps we'll see some interaction with Alcide, because I think maybe he could help Luna out there. Maybe he chooses to. Jessica. Now, I've noticed, I think in this, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but Jessica, it seems, has kind of drawn from the female vampires around her. Like when she sat at the desk when Steve Newland came over and they were talking about Jason. When she sat at that desk, she totally reminded me of Nan Flanagan the season before. And I was looking at her outfit, and it was sort of kind of Pam-ish in a way. So that leads me to believe she's kind of drawing from them, and I think that's kind of sweet. But I was really, I love the scene between Steve and Jessica, how she basically like drove him to have a fang boner, and she's like, I would never sell out my friends. But it's just really interesting because, she tried to have this normal college lifestyle and she ended up kicking everyone out because, humans bored her and she was mad. So that was very interesting. Let's see. Who else do I want to talk about? Let's talk about Terry and Arlene just for 1 second. Terry and Arlene, I'm really liking the way that this storyline is shaping up. I mean, Terry's obviously having some problems with memories in Iraq. I didn't quite understand what was going on with those flashbacks they showed. Because they were going a little bit too fast for me, but obviously he has been suppressing these things and kind of has blocked them out. And now with Scott Foley's character there, Patrick, they've come back. So now they're, he's having issues, and he's pushed Arlene and he's slapped her on the wrist. But being the strong woman Arlene is, she doesn't just sit there and take it. I mean, she went right to Patrick and said, look, you need to fix this because this is my husband. This is the father of my kids. Fix it. So that's going to be really interesting. And I think that the next episode we're going to see the Waiting Sucks clip scene with the guy with the gun having tied up Terry and Patrick, because they said in the scene that this guy that they were going to go visit was kind of crazy and not right. So I think that's probably where that comes in. Eric and Bill have arrived at the Authority, and we don't meet Roman right away, but we do meet Salome and we do meet Dieter Braun, and I found the Authority fascinating. I mean, in a lot of the reviews that I chose to read this morning, a lot of people found the Authority introduction with the council members and everything way too long, but I actually found it quite fascinating. The whole thing with Nora betraying the Authority, and then Bill and Eric being interrogated after almost being UV'd to death in their cells was really interesting to me. And I keep saying interesting. I'm sorry, but I don't know how else to describe it. But I just thought it was cool because they used all the standard interrogation techniques that you could, but it's just, I find it fascinating myself that they have this whole backstory, beliefs, vampire belief system, religion, whether it's true or not. It's not really, the story itself is not the point. It's just the fact that vampires believe something like this, that there is this kind of sect. I found that fascinating because, it happens, in real life. I was raised Catholic as a kid, and when I saw that scene between, Roman and all the Authority members where they were receiving blood, I'm like, oh, this was very familiar. It's like getting communion. Really, like, we get the blood of Christ or whatever. So that, it's basically the same thing. So I found that fascinating, but the fact that Bill and Eric didn't give each other up, didn't give in, even after Salome basically went after Nora and said that they had killed her, and Eric, you saw that he wanted to react, but he remained cool. They're in deep shit, basically. Really deep shit. And Roman, Christopher Milioni, was fantastic. He's a really commanding presence. It's obvious that he wants to try to do the right thing. And if you've seen the Authority video I posted this morning, you'll see scenes, I think, from the next episode. Roman's quite conflicted about the whole religion thing, the religious aspect. So it's going to be really interesting to see him. But, he takes no bullshit. And Eric and Bill, in this context, they're really small compared to the rest of the vampire world, and suddenly, like, Sookie and her fairiness doesn't seem to really matter all that much because they're gonna die. If it hadn't been for Bill pulling out the Russell Edgington card and admitting that they didn't kill him, they'd be dead. So Russell Edgington, by the way, we saw at the very end. He was all cracked and and not disfigured and everything, but he's back. And so Bill and Eric have to find him. But more importantly, who is trying to help him? I don't know. But yeah, overall, I thought that The Authority was fantastic. Christopher Milioti did a great job saying all those lines in Aramaic. But I'm really intrigued by The Authority this season because it's not the traditional enemy type thing that we've had the past 4 seasons. Because to me, The Authority, they're not an enemy to me. I think they're more in a gray area because they want mainstreaming and they want to get along with humans, not just, in a granola peace on earth kind of way, but out of necessity because humans outnumber vampires. So that was good to know. So that's basically all I have to say about the episode. Please stick with the site. Keep checking into it. I'll post stuff all week, obviously. And I'll try to get some more interviews. I have them sitting. I took a break over the weekend because I've had a lot of interviews to write, and it just gets to be a little bit old. And I needed a break after premiere week with posting all that stuff. But I want to thank everybody again. If you've live tweeted with me on Twitter or followed the live tweets during the East Coast, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for visiting the site. I mean, this is incredible to be able to do this. And I will see you all next week. Bye.